Hello and welcome to Spark Infinity, another mini Spark conversation with fascinating people and really their endless and limitless creativity. Experiencing some technical challenges today, hoping we can get through this because I want to highlight someone that's absolutely amazing in the community. Maj, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me here, David. Such a blessing to be here.
Great. So let's just start off with something really simple. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Iran. I was born there. Yep. And
Wonderful. And where are you currently situated?
yeah, I left the country when I was 18 or 19. And I think I left when I was 18 and I ended up in US when I was 19. I am in California, Bay Area right now. Been here most of my time in US,
Mm.
just all my time in US.
Well, I love the West Coast. I used to be in Calgary, situated in Alberta myself, but I was part of a network marketing organization, and then we would travel down to Spokane and we would travel down to Portland. And when I eventually moved out towards the West Coast in Vancouver area now, man, it's an amazing place. Love the trees. I actually love the rain. You don't get much of that down there, though, do you? No rain,
No, not as
or
much. We had
rarely.
a rain today, but not as much. But we got the trees. We got the trees.
Absolutely. Like some of us who have been highlighted in this community, Maj has an amazing and really fast growing Facebook group. Why don't you tell us about that?
About my Facebook group, yes.
Yeah.
So originally, I created my Facebook group some time back, and I used to call it "What's Right with You" because that was something that, as a child, I had problems with. It was always like everybody was looking with what's wrong. I could see that from a child point of view in adults, in teachers. Like teachers, like you would get back home, they grade you from 20. So you would get 1925, 19.25. And for that 0.75, like you would come home and you would tell to the neighbors, yeah, I got 19 point. And they would say, who got 20? So it was always focused on what's the rest of it? Where's the rest of it? Versus, hey, good job. You did that. So that name spoke a lot to me when I had it for the beginning life of the group. And then sometime mid last year, toward the end of last year, I changed the name to something that is more in line with. So still is about what's right with you, but more it's an alignment with the people that I work with. And at the time, even now, I have mostly women in the group, so I call it's
Hmm.
mostly women and some courageous men like yourself. And the group is called the Global She Circle, and
Yes,
She stands for support, harmony, and empowerment. Yes.
I love that. And what do you do nowadays? And what was the journey leading to the point of what you are now creating in the world?
I am a cool nerd. That's how I identify. I'm a really cool nerd. I love sports. I love dancing. I love dressing up. I love looking good. But I'm a nerd at heart. So I have an engineering background. I
Mm.
uh, I worked five ridiculous jobs to go through school, go to UC Berkeley School of Engineering and become an engineer. And I kind of don't know how I made all that happen because it's just like something that why didn't I just said no, I'm not going to do this, it's a lot of work. But it was just so in alignment with all my dreams and wishes, whatever that was at a time. And I was working for over a decade and maybe 15 years. And then that changed when I had my children, my two daughters. From my first one, I started saying, maybe this, maybe that, but I wasn't still able to articulate what I really wanted because all my life, from when I was 4 years old, I always said I want to be an engineer. I was the one who would like break things open to see what's going on inside of them, and then I would try to put them back without anybody knowing, and I would always end up with extras. But things would still work. So I'm like, good. And I actually fix things by just opening them, looking at them, and just touch them and then close them, and they would start working. So I thought I am an engineer as a kid. Um, so when I chose to stop that and be more in the presence of my children and be a mom, I had a lot of resistance to that because first of all, I wasn't understanding it. Second of all, the fact that I was always a person in that I advocated joy in my life, and suddenly I was not happy, even though I had everything. I had a good paying job. I have great husband, kids, home, living in the best part of the world, this and that, healthy parents, all of that. And I'm like, what? Why the heck is wrong with me? And I could see that there's something I'm not being true to myself. But it took me several years, if I may be correct, 7 to 8 years for me to sort out what it is that I want to do and who is it that I am. And I recognized at the time that at this time frame in my life, I want to be a mom. That's all I
Mm.
want to be in this time frame. And there were so many people who panicked when I when I brought that forward to them, including my husband, my family, my parents. But I was very adamant in that choice because it took me 7 years to get there and to really go deep and know my own knowing. So that when you have that conviction, even though it doesn't make sense, even though you're crazy, letting go of the golden handcuff, letting go of all that it brings, the prestige and this and that. But then it was 20 years ago to this day that I quit my job and I became a mom. And then after that, things just started showing up for me. So
Mm.
from being in my masculine energy, I was like, okay, I want to be a mom. I want to sort of just have like I wasn't articulating it at a time like this, but I want to be more of a mom. I want to be more of a feminine person and kind of have that energy. And but lo and behold, ever since then, everything was sort of showed up in front of me. Like, oh, let's do this, and it would be there. Oh, let's do this, and it would be there. And so, fast forward. I mean, I have so many stories how things showed up for me. How I started teaching Stanford with the Be Well program, their yoga and classes, and now I started teaching some lecture series there with the Be Well program. This past 2 weeks, I had a two lecture series. We just ended last yesterday, the second one. So it just created all these opportunities. And how I started coaching was one of my yoga students came to me one day about 10 years ago. He goes, I want to work with you. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I want to work with you. And that's how it sort of started. So it was more of a pull for me to do things. Like somebody would pull, like, let's do this, let's do that. And, and I recognize the more I move with my inner joy, the more I move with my soul calling, the more I move with who I truly am, even though it doesn't make sense, because a whole lot of times it does not make sense because I still have that left brain. But to me is I hear you, I got you, but I'm still gonna do this.
Mm.
Uh, and I know you make sense. I know you were right, but this one feels better, even though it's silly, even though it may be stupid, even though it may kind of like the worst thing that you can do in a three-dimensional world, but I'm gonna go that way. And to be honest with you, up to now, it hasn't failed me. So I'm having more and more of a conviction of doing what feels right here with my heart, with my gut, with my body. So I use my body as a communication device to tell me things, and I move in that direction. I trust that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Following the leading of your heart, which is a brave and courageous thing to do. So I acknowledge you for that. That's amazing
Yeah.
and lovely. It's a wonderful message for all of our artist friends out there in this community too. Another thing that I can somewhat relate to. I don't know whether I'm a nerd, but I am enough of a geek to be hired on into big tech, and that's that's what I do nowadays by day. By lunch hour and evening and weekends, I'm an interviewer, just as I am right now,
Mhm.
because it's like I don't know. I don't want to say stay in your lane because I my creativity knows no limits, but at the same time, I've kind of found a focus that people resonate with me showing up in this way and interviewing people and giving them a space to talk about and share about themselves and their creativity. So,
Yeah.
uh,
What just came to me when you say stay in your lane, because I heard this from a lot of people. What just came to me right now, I think it's more about stay out of other people's lane,
ah,
but there's no limit in your lane,
that's right.
but staying out of people's lane. Like you could share lane with other people, but don't butt them, don't tell them yes or no or this or that. So stay out of people's path, and your path could be shared. You can your path could be like the hugest path, and you can do whatever you want to do, but stay out of people's path. So I think that's more of what resonates with me rather
Mm.
than also in your own lane.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's very well said. And I'm making a bit of an assumption here, but just from your background and your countenance, it seems like you're also a spiritual person. Is that an aspect of yourself you'd like to share a bit?
Yes, yes. So, I grew up sort of in a more of a spiritual family versus religious. My
Mm.
grandparents were poets, so I call it spiritual because I think you got to be a poet, a spiritual person to be do poetry. Like literally, I think you got to be connected to be
Mm.
able to do poetry and sing. As an artist, I think you know that when you create music and when you create your songs, there is a connection. It's not this, there is a flow of information coming in. And my mom was always really busy, and she was doing some Sufism meetings every week, a couple times a week or 3 times a week. And for me to hang out with my mom, I would go to those meetings so I can sit next to her, lean on her, and kind of have her energy around me. But then by default, the fine print was that I start hearing things and watching things and start meditating just for the heck of it. And I wouldn't tell my friends that I'm doing these things, but I started very, very young to kind of, let me meditate, let me put a candle and focus on the candle. So I kind of started it very playfully. And that was something that I think sort of saved me throughout my life, even when I first came to US and being on my own and so on and so forth. Uh, and that has been more of my calling and more of my way of making choices. And um, and I um, I'm affiliated with few friend groups. I study a course in miracle. I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. my time.
Wow.
We're on a call for an hour. I've been doing that for over 5 6 years, every single day, except if I'm traveling and I'm like somewhere in Europe and it's 3 p.m. and we're in a market somewhere. Can't go on it. So yeah, I do have that tendency, and I'm a yogi. I haven't been teaching as much as I used to pre-pandemic, but for 15 years I taught heavily. I did so many work, been into classes, retreats, and all of that. And one of the things I told my yoga students, my daughter just finished her yoga teacher training, and she just today it was her first day back home. She lives in Netherlands, and she told me, "Mom, I did it because you kind of told us it's okay for us to do other things." And I'm like, "Yes." So I don't tell my kids to do things. I kind of whisper, but then I trust that they make the right calls because they know more than me what they need to know. And but for for um, for me was going into the yoga and all that. And whenever I taught yoga, I would always say, because I would working at Stanford with mostly nerds, mostly people who are affiliated with the teaching and with working there, and students. And they always would come to class for the physical movement aspect of it because their shoulder hurts, their back hurts. They were scientists and they were like having hunches and they want to get rid of the hunch. And I would always say, hey guys, this, but there's a fine print. And they were like, what's the fine print? I'm like, you may get spiritual. So that's the warning, like this may happen, that may happen. The thing is, you may get spiritual. And they would all laugh. And then by the end, their languaging would shift, the way of they would see things would shift. So I think all these practices kind of gets us closer and closer to who we truly are. And then we
Mm.
call it spiritual.
I think I recently heard that yoga moves energy in the body. Is that consistent with what you've come to see?
I think yoga does so many things for you. Yes. I
Hmm.
mean, if you know about the line of energies, there is people talk about chakras, and, Chinese talk about line of energy and meridians and all of that. So
Yes.
one of the thing is, yes, yoga kind of, when you get on your mat and you practice your practice, you come out and you can see better. Like you literally can see better. Like but the other good thing about yoga is, as you're going through the poses, you talk to yourself like, oh crap, I gotta do this. Oh, how long more are we gonna hold this? And one thing about yoga for me was, I would tell the students that whatever thought you have now, it's a thought you have not knowing when you do anything else in your life. So revise that thought right now. Instead of saying, oh crap, I have to do this for another 10 seconds, just say, oh goody, I get to do this for another 10 seconds, and start rewiring those thoughts. And that's how you rewire whatever you're doing out there, because you are definitely thinking the same way when you're doing something hard outside. And so yoga also gives you time to hear yourself.
Hmm.
That's the best part of it. Like you can do it in meditation. But sometimes in meditation, people could get. I mean, I'm an advocate of meditation. I run the most of the Unity of Palo Alto meditation classes on Sunday mornings, and I do it on Zoom, and I do it in my personal page on Facebook, so everybody can access it if they wish. 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sundays, and
Hmm.
so I do that. But to me, is my meditation might be very different from other people's meditation, but at the same time, these movements like yoga movements, Tai Chi, allow you to recognize what your thinking is. So you can release it, you can keep it, you can upgrade it, you can do what you have a choice. At least you have a fighting chance. At least you have a choice because you recognize the thought. You recognize these thoughts. And we have about, I don't know, 70,000 thoughts a day. And they say like 90% of those are being repeated day in, day out.
Yeah.
So maybe we could hear some of those 90. And if they're not serving, we're like, oh, that's why I suck at this. So maybe I can let go of this thought.
I love what you shared about kind of the inner monologue of it all. Meditation is another topic. Like once we start down that track, I feel like we could talk for hours, but
Yes.
is there a specific practice that, like you talked about what you do, if
Mhm.
people were just getting introduced to it or if they want to get into it, is there a specific practice they should adopt or can they just go to anyone that kind of resonates with them?
Meditation, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, meditation, I think, because from where I'm coming from, people cannot, like, they can't sit with themselves. So if you ask somebody to meditate, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, no, 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 I cannot meditate. So therefore, I actually, in my Facebook group that you're in, the Global She Circle, under the guides, I have a couple things. One is, I think, at least three meditations that are 2 minutes,
Hmm.
or maybe 3 minutes, but I think they're 2 minutes. Anybody can do 2 minutes. Anybody can do 2 minutes. And if I'm lying, there are 3 minutes. It's either because I can't think of it now. It's either two, but I think it's 2 minutes. So I have that, and I also have a ebook that I've written, which is I title it "Empty Nesters Rediscovering Joy," but it's basically rediscovering joy. It doesn't just go with empty nesters. So I have these two items, few meditations, and this in the guide section in the global she circle for people to access. So you can start. If all you need is the only thing you need to do meditation, come closer. The only thing you need to do meditation is to be willing, to be willing, to be willing. That's all you need. That's all you need. You don't
Yeah.
need to be in a temple. You don't need to be in a quiet space. You don't need, because literally we are doing all this work so we can have the calm in the midst of chaos. So sometimes when I was running my classes, let's say on campus at Stanford, there were a lot of remodeling going on. These university has a lot of money, so they're continuously building and doing. So there would be things like, and I would say, hey guys, this is the best thing because you guys been with me for so many years. Now this is showtime. This is all these things are going on. Let's see if we can practice serenity in the midst of chaos.
Hmm.
So again, I
I
trust that answers your question.
it does, it does, and I totally agree. I think anyone can do 2 minutes, starting off simply. I tend to. I mean, it's been part of my practice for a long time. When I initially learned about it, I was not at all consistent with it. Recently, I've been able to be a little more consistent with it. I like 20 minutes. I like laying down. I like putting on relaxing music. That's just my general practice. I keep it pretty simple, but other practices can totally be rewarding in so many ways too. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love the idea that you're.
I teach guided meditation. So I
Mhm.
will, I would be like saying, do this and go here and go there. But I said I is the big I because I don't even, sometimes I'm like, I gotta write this down. Whatever just came through, I gotta write this down. So it's not me, it's whatever shows up, whoever is there, the energy of past, present, future, that brings it. And I always say it gets downloaded. And so when that comes in, I do a lot of like the word that comes out of my mouth is guided meditation, but I don't have it written down. I have no clue what's going to come. And then we just go with it. And the energy of the space and group and the day and the time, whatever it is, that shows up. And
Mm.
there's so many. I mean, there is so many ways to meditate that I think anybody, everybody can find a way. Like my husband is a runner,
Yes.
and he meditates when he's running, and he doesn't miss his running because it's meditation. I mean, of course, he loves running. I don't know why, but
Me either.
I mean, nobody's after you. Why are you running?
Yeah. No kidding. I guess within moderation, they say exercise is good for you, so there is that. I don't think I could find a flow in running either, but in walking, certainly, and in nature. But as you say, you can find it
There's
wherever.
something for everybody. Yes, there's something for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be willing to be willing to be willing, and it shows up. When the student is ready, the teacher will show up.
Yeah. Well said. And you mentioned some really great sounding resources, so anybody who's curious can head on over to your Facebook group. Again, it's the Global She Circle, right? That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And find it there. And of course, you're totally invited and welcome to leave anything you want in the comments, Maj. Is there anything else I should have asked in this session?
The beauty of these conversations is not anticipated. Like I have no clue
Yeah,
what you're going to ask. Maybe you don't even have a clue what you're going to ask,
not
and
today.
that's the beauty of it. But what comes out, and so maybe what I want to end this with is that you know whatever you want to do, you do it, and whatever you don't want to do, you don't do it. Like it's as simple as that.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. People say they don't have money to join a course because it's $500, but then yet they go to a concert and they pay $600 for a concert ticket. People say they don't have money to do this, go to this retreat and get cleansed and da 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 da, but then they go buy a purse for $1,500. So it's like whatever you want to do, you do, and it's your thing. That's perfect. But the fact that we say I can't, I mean, to kind of put that word out of our vocabulary and just say I don't want to.
Hmm.
Instead of saying, oh, I can't meditate, just say I don't want to. Like take ownership of it. I
Yeah.
can't, I can't stop working. I can't be a crazy person. No, I don't want to. I can't quit work. No, I don't want to. Because a lot of people can't quit their works and they do. So I think that's
Yeah.
how I want to, the one thing that comes right now, just change that I can't to I don't want to. Because that's the reality of it.
I love that. I often felt the need to appease people in the past and to try to like all the things that they like, and I should want to do all the things they want to do
Hmm.
without actually expressing that, no, I don't want to do that, or no, it's not right for me. And I think it's very freeing to be able to say that it's not antagonistic. It's just simply that's not for me, you know, and
Yeah.
we should
And
be able
again,
to go through life.
my group used to be called "What's Right with You"
Yeah.
or "What's right for you." Like I literally tell people, choose what's right for you. I can't tell you that.
Yeah. Seek within. um, yes. Thank you so much for being here today, Maj. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
And to our friends at Spark Infinity, if this resonates with you, if you're interested in learning more, make sure to check out the Global She Circle. I did a little interview there. I did post it in the Spark Infinity group as well, so you could probably find it there. And we'll see you again really soon, probably tomorrow, everyone. Thanks again.